Coming up in this video, we have our Repo the Genetic Opera Cult Film Club screening introduction by Johann Chipol. Fancy some insight on the 2000s horror rock opera starring Anthony Stewart Head that looks like a 90-minute nu metal music video? Why wouldn't you? Take it away, Johann.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cult Film Club. Please give a warm welcome for your host, Johann Chipol.
So, first of all, hi there everyone. Thank you for joining us for a special edition of the Cult Film Club, right here in the Paris Cinema Cult Film Festival. And this was an interesting one to pick, so thank you. First of all, can I just get a raise of hands first of all? How many of you have actually seen Repo before? Most of you, good. The thing worried with this, I actually was worried about this at the beginning, is the idea of if anyone would turn up to this. It took a little while almost for me to convince people to play this.
Well, who ordered pizza? I could sure go for a slice.
Oh, never too pressed for a dramatical entrance.
You wanted to see me.
But I'm glad that we have an audience and a fan base here to go. It looks like we have a crew right there. That's terrifying me over here. Well done. But yeah, so for those who haven't seen it, yeah, this is going to be a treat in whether you're going to absolutely adore this or the complete polar opposite. This is a movie that is polarized a lot, but it is a movie that I argue does deserve cult status. It literally said in most of their reviews when it started that it's an instant cult classic just from its setup, which I think sums it up very nicely. So, for those who don't know, Repo the Genetic Opera is a 2008 American rock opera that also falls under the idea of being a horror movie, a musical, a melodrama, and everything else in between. Now, I feel like this movie kind of aims a little bit more at my generation. If anyone was an emo kid in the mid-2000s, this movie's very much for you.
Life is pain. Life is only pain.
But let's explain that a little bit further. So, this was directed by Darren Lee Bozeman, who, in case you don't know, and if you really want more summaries of what this movie's going to feel like, directed Saw 2.
He helped me.
Saw 3. Saw 4.
You think it's over just because I'm dead? It's not over.
And Saw Spiral.
Jigsaw? Wait, I thought the Jigsaw Killer was dead.
He is.
So, if you like the Saw movies and you say, hey, what happens if a Saw director decides to make a musical, you get this.
Not the dead doctor with the hungry scalp. Well, here's my prognosis. Will they live?
Doubtful.
So, there's a lot of things going on with this. So this was based off a sort of already a one-act play that started in about 2002 of the same name that was done by Darren Smith and Terence Adunich. And they basically came up with this idea starting all the way back in 1996 when Darren Smith, not him by the way, I'm not sure if this makes him a nice person or not, had a friend who went through bankruptcy and lost all his possessions in a closure and lost his house. And then he says, hey, I can make a musical out of that. I'm not entirely sure that makes him a nice person, but still. Inspired by this, he started writing and coming up with the idea of a future of what happens if you had no possessions and you still need to pay the repo man. Well, how about organs? And so this is where the idea began. From that point onwards, it was then and Terence Adunich who collaborated on this idea. And so they started off in theatre plays doing a 10-minute short. They did a 10-minute sort of improv play called The Necro Merchant's Debt, which follows the character of the grave robber, who, if anyone's a fan of them, a fan of the movie knows what we're talking about. So the center of this was the grave robber originally, not any of the other plot, which explains a lot. But point being with that is it was a 10-minute stage performance that got really excited stuff. They got good rave reviews to the point they turned into a full one-act play. And in that one-act play, then turned into Repo the Genetic Opera that was basically on stage in 2002. And then from that point onwards, that's where it was starting. Now on the stage, it was getting a cult following. It wasn't really big, but it was getting a cult following until they decided to pitch it to a movie thing. Now, the director of all the Saw movies I've just mentioned was watching this musical and said, hey, I will fund this and help you direct this 10-minute pitch. And so they went over, they made a 10-minute short film as a movie pitch for this. And it turned out that not many people were into it until Lionsgate looked at it and said, well, hey, you actually directed the Saw films for us, so you know what, throw you a bone. And so by that point, that's how the movie got made. It got made predominantly by favors, but also done because they did like the dark style. Lionsgate at the time in the mid-2000s was very much into its horror vibe. And so they just really leaned into this. And this led to an amazing budget. I mean, you look at a movie and sometimes you wonder if the budget actually was there. But the movie's budget was about $8.5 million. And they were able to get that literally out of the fact that they liked the style, they liked the thing, and also they liked the director because they've already made money for them. So they all kind of blended together. Now, I'm talking about how it started, but one of the things that everyone likes about it is the songs themselves.
Didn't I build a house, a home? Didn't I? Didn't I raise her all alone? Didn't I?
Right? It's a musical after all. Actually, it's an opera. Just to clarify that, Terence Dunich actually hates the fact that people call it a rock musical. It is an opera because everyone sings all the time. There's barely any lines of dialogue. Everything's sort of sing-sung kind of thing when they're sort of like saying lines. And some of you might absolutely adore that. Some of you might pile it pure cringe.
That surgery was only 90 grand.
I did not complain when you changed your name from Largo to Sweet.
I need a stage name.
You are a disgrace. Your jeans are not worthy of mine.
But I generally think it's part of its charm. So basically with that, just to clarify, the soundtrack itself has approximately 58 songs in it. 58 songs, 14 of them are instrumentals. But here's the thing that got me very excited about it when I did the research. This soundtrack was actually produced by Yokoshi of X Japan. So if anyone's a fan of X Japan, which is one of the biggest rock bands in Japan, now you know that Repo is a part of that, which is interesting. I don't know how he got to do that, but still. Now, the funny thing was that if with all that and the 14 instrumentals and everything else, there were certain songs that actually made attempts to be put into the Academy Award for Best Original Song. So that's the songs include like Chase the Morning, Zydrate Anatomy.
Zydrate comes in a little glass vial.
A little glass vial?
Those kind of songs as well. Unfortunately, the Academy just went, no. Now, some of you might say, no, that's an absolute shame, or some of you might say, good. But point being is that it actually the songs are the thing that are the selling point. It is a full-blown opera. It's got the music is very much of its time, but it's the music as well that really sort of is the selling point. Now, other things of selling point are the people who star in it. Now, when you look at this originally, when they did the pictures and everything else, the cast were not the people you see on the screen. Now they had a bigger budget, so they've got a few more people. So let's talk about some of them first. Let's start with Anthony Stewart Head, shall we? There you go. Now.
So about the only thing we do have in common is
our taste in coffee.
Golden roasted, richer, smoother, Nescafe Gold Blend.
Basically, the reason why he got the role was very simply because of the Buffy musical episode.
I wish I could say the right words to lead you through this land. Wish I could play the father and take you by the hand. Wish I could stay.
They looked at that and said, that man needs to be in this musical. And he already has a musical background. He actually already played on Broadway and other places as well, including on London's West End. He actually played a part replacing his brother in Chess the Musical. So he already had some good pipes. So he got that role from that thing and got right and became the Repo Man as we know.
Every dying whisper.
We also have a few other bits as well, like we also have Sarah Brightman. So Sarah Brightman, some of you might already know more from the 1986 version of Phantom of the Opera, and this was her first ever cinematic role, which makes it really kind of interesting. However, she wasn't originally a part of it. She wasn't originally going to be Blind Mag. However, this was basically, they had someone else involved, but literally, and I quote this, because of the film's low budget, they decided to go nah, and decided to go for Sarah Brightman instead. So I'm not sure what that means for Sarah Brightman. Personally, I think that's a win, personally. But there we go. Now, okay, I'm beating around the bush. There's loads of other characters as well, other people. Like this movie stars literally the girl from Spy Kids. We got all that already. However, I'm gonna have to address the elephant in the room. Paris Hilton's in this movie.
Where the fuck is Dad, brothers?
He left me in charge, sister.
I don't take lip from a slut.
I'm going to have to talk first about them because actually, during my research, I've discovered that Paris Hilton's the reason why not only this movie exists, but she actually saved this movie from bankruptcy. So, first of all, originally, Darren refused to hold an audition for Paris Hilton because during that time, in case you know, if anyone remembers the mid-2000s, no one liked basically party girls. No one liked that kind of vibe. It's like, oh, you're only famous because you've got a rich dad and you're partying. We still got that kind of vibe now. But basically, he said like he just didn't think that was because he was capable of doing the role. Paris, at this moment in time, wanted to branch out of just being the party girl character, and so didn't think she was capable, and feared the backlash of media of having Paris Hilton in your movie. Personally, I think it's a selling point. But he finally caved into an audition, and when that happened, Paris literally came in fully dressed, perfect for the part, and I quote, rocked the sound booth. Literally, by that point, just coming in for the audition, said, I'm sold. Now, this became her personal passion project. For example, many of the costumes that Amber, her character, actually wears, as well as most of the women, are literally all from her wardrobe. So everything in the movie, at least most of the women are wearing, is from Paris Hilton's wardrobe. So to save more money. But here's the thing, at one point, the movie was on hold because it went over budget by $50,000. Just $50,000, right? But it goes on hold, it's like we've run out of money. So Paris decided to do the thing she loved best. She made a paid appearance in a nightclub. She went to that nightclub. She got $100,000 for that appearance and then gave it to the movie to finish it off. Literally, the reason why this movie exists is because Paris Hilton decided to party one night and give the funds to them, which is awesome. So despite that, here's the thing, despite that, she's not credited as a producer. So she doesn't even get the praise of giving the money across. Now, you can talk about it if you want. However, Paris Hilton at this point in time wasn't really like the central point, but she wasn't the most popular person, which means she did win the Golden Raspberry Award for the worst supporting actress in the 29th Golden Raspberry Awards. She did win the worst supporting role in that, and I think I'll let you make up your mind on that.
So you think you got heart? So you think you got balls?
Now, some other cameos, there's some noticeable cameos you'll notice when you watch the movie. One of them, which might slip your mind if you haven't noticed, is Joan Jett. Joan Jett does appear in the movie. She is a guitarist. Now, she was brought on by a favor because Darren and Joan Jett met at a concert and then basically made a phone call saying, hey, are you free today? Do you want to hang out? And so basically got Joan Jett to be in the movie literally because, hey, we hang out once. I think you're cool. Well, obviously it's Joan Jett. So that's the vibe on that point. So, that's literally is all build up. The whole movie, otherwise than that, it went fairly smoothly. Things were all done on one big sound stage, and they really, really tried to keep that aesthetic and everything going. Once it was all done and everything was done, and the edit was through, it was time for its limited cinema release in 2008. It was limited for the fact that people were very cautious about this movie. They weren't really sure it was going to sell well. So they started off in limited places around the country. So they started off in Canada, some limited places in Canada, some in America, some in Croatia of all places. I'm not sure. But they tried to put the thing in the water just to see how it works. It didn't do very well. Like I said, the movie is about $8.5 million. In cinemas only, it only got $500,000 from its cinema releases. It did not do very well. It basically, according to critics, a lot of the critics basically said that this movie is an instant classic just for its pure campiness. However, they said, like, for example, some performances just did not gel. Some other things say that the story is completely nonsensical. Others have basically sort of mentioned the idea that it only just seems to be, and I quote this from one of the edgelordy. So, yeah, that's a vibe. So basically, like I said, this is very mid-2000s vibe of a movie. Like I said, I was an emo kid, so this very much feels to my aesthetic. But after that, it's after the DVD releases in particular, people were starting to have a bit of a fan base, hence the crowd you are here now. And the fan support caused for Repo the Genetic Opera to have a road show. So for quite literally about 6 years after its launch, they were playing in cinemas. And not only were they playing in cinemas during that time, they even had shadow casts. So they had people dressed up to perform some of the songs live on stage in front of the movie theaters all. I'll just say the fact that Quad did not have the budget to have an entire cast to sing the entire thing in front of them, just to say now, just to avoid disappointment. But they basically became sort of a newer wave sort of Rocky Horror Picture Show. They tried to have that kind of vibe to it. They had people singing, shouting. They had a whole cast singing whole songs. That's the thing. And this is the thing that kind of kept this movie alive for its longest time. And even now, it still has its reputation with that as well. Now, just to clarify and to maybe disappoint all of you Repo fans as well, the producers did state that this was actually going to be a middle movie of a trilogy. There were going to be 3 movies involved, and the next chapter was going to be Repo the Beginning. Clearly, but unfortunately, no one saw this movie in cinemas, so we didn't. I would say I don't think we got the chance or been tortured to see the beginning of that one. However, there was no time frame given, and this is the thing afterwards. After that, though, they all went along and did things like The Devil's Carnival and a whole bunch of other musicals of that sort and made their own trilogy out of that instead of Repo. Repo, as a lot of critics say, almost feels like a first-time attempt. This is the first attempt at trying something all new with horror, musical, and everything else. And it is a very quirky, wonderful experiment that I'm glad that all of you are here to attend to witness, whether you like it or not. So, like I said, I personally love this. It is literally the brainchild of people who just wanted to try something weird, and they got to do it. So, there we go. That is Repo. That's our little introduction to Repo.
Then let the father die, and let the monster rise.
We at the Cult Film Club like to do movies like every 2 months, and so I'm going to give the opportunity for you to catch the next one. So I'm going to ask a question, and all I would like to do is raise your hand, and when you raise your hand, I'd like you to shout out Repo, and then with the answer, and if you get that correct, you get 2 tickets to the next Cult Film Club screening. Are you all ready? Thank you. Okay, so this wasn't Paris Hilton's first ever attempt. She made other movies beforehand. What famous horror remake did she star in beforehand? What? Where was that? Yep, go on. What? That's it, thank you very much. So you get the 2 tickets to the next screening, thank you. Right, where was that? It was blinding. Who was that? There you go, thank you very much. Saturday, July the 6th, the next Cult Film screening will be, Cult Film Club screening will be, can I get a drum roll, please? Flash Gordon! Gordon! Gordon's alive indeed!
What plaything can you offer me today?
The planet Earth.
What's happening?
It's an attack.
Pathetic Earthlings! Who can save you now?
Flash! They'll kill you!
Let's all team up and fight him.
Prepare him for torture!
I want him.
Stop at nothing.
Flash, I love you! But we only have 14 hours to save the Earth!
Flash Gordon is still alive.
Gordon's alive? Yes!
Must be my lucky day.
So we'll be watching that, and then we've got many more plans ahead. So first of all, thank you all of you for attending. Thank you for joining part of the Paris Cinema Cult Film Club, and I bid you a good night. Enjoy. Thank you.
Fancy supporting Retro Rewind in the best possible way? Head over to buymeacoffee.com/Harvey Retro and choose from 2 options to unlock exclusive full movie and album commentary videos by yours truly and guests. Select membership and join Harvey's AV Club for £3 a month. Trivia, anecdotes, and even drinking games will be on the cards with these special commentary episodes. Or, if you'd rather, just say thank you without joining the club, select support and buy us a VHS tape, which is a single £5 contribution, and don't forget to tell us which classic you're adding to our library, as it might inspire me to review that movie in future. And that's it.